Good morning!
I'm your radio teacher,
I am your science buddy.
and I'll give you an exciting lesson that you'll surely enjoy.
Sci Talks Radio. Education must continue.
Learning is a great avenue.
No one will be left behind. With new normal comes new learning.
New method, new way of understanding.
Keep on learning.
Keep on achieving,
There's no way of hindering.
enriching one's dream.
This is Sci Talks Radio,
your number one source of science education.
Conveying a half an hour of quality scientific teaching on air.
This is
Sci Talks Radio.
Hello, 8th grade! How was your grade in the second quarter? I know you are doing good. I'm sure you are so excited to know more. A wonderful morning, grade 8 students! Another quarter has ended and here we are at Radyo Eskwela, making your third quarter of the school year more fun and exciting through listening to our broadcast. This is Teacher Rachel, your science buddy for today. I'm so glad that your excitement in listening to Radyo Eskwela doesn't stop. I can feel that you are prepared for this episode that is full of learning. Are you ready for another adventure with me? At this point in time, lend me your ears and pay attention for today's episode. Before we begin, be in a comfortable place and make sure your stomach is full so that you'll have the eagerness to learn and get the things that you will be needing for today's episode. Also, take down all the important details, so fasten your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Let's go! Before we start a new learning journey, let's review our past lesson. Can you still recall? That's good. What was it again? Very good. It's all about comets, asteroids, and meteors. I know you can still remember our last lesson. Am I right? Can you give some characteristics of comets and asteroids? Amazing! Comets and asteroids both orbit in the sun and move relatively slow when viewed on Earth. This means you can see a comet for up to a year in the night sky or even during the morning if the comet is bright enough. They are both varied or irregular in shape, and the orbital period or years of comets are 75 to 100,000 plus years, while asteroids is 1 to 100 years. Do you know where they come from? That's right! The major difference between comets and asteroids is their origin, or where they come from. Comets usually come from the Oort cloud, which is beyond our solar system, and a few from Kuiper belt, which is just beyond Neptune's orbit. Asteroids, on the other hand, originate from the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Now, let's have an activity. Are you ready? Sounds that you are now ready. All you have to do is to identify which is matter. Say yes if the sample is matter and say no if it is not a matter. For item number 1, water. The answer is yes, water is a matter. For item number 2, light. That's correct. The answer is no. Light is not a sample of matter. For item number 3, stone. Very good. The answer is yes. Stone is a matter because it has mass and volume. For item number 4, heat. Amazing. The answer is no. Heat is not a sample of matter. For the last item, smoke. You got it right. Smoke is not a matter. Job well done. I must consider that you're now ready for our new lesson. Do you have an idea about it? Correct. It is all about the particle nature of matter. Let's begin. Based on our activity a while ago, you have just described some characteristics of matter. These characteristics that describe a sample of matter are called properties. Matter can have different properties. You can measure the mass of each sample of matter using a balance or a weighing scale. The mass of an object is a measure of the amount of matter the object has. The measure of the space occupied by an object is called volume. All matter has mass and volume. There are other properties of matter such as hardness, texture, color, flexibility, malleability, and electrical conductivity, which varies from one sample to another. Studying matter involves dealing with very small particles beyond what your eyes can see. In fact, the ancient Greek philosophers proposed ideas about what matter was made of. Democritus believed that nature consisted of two things: atoms and the void that surrounds them. According to Nyaram, 1995 to 2013, they believed that atoms are physically but not geometrically invisible. For Democritus, atoms are indestructible and completely full, so there is no empty space. Democritus believed that any piece of matter can be divided and subdivided into very small particles, but that this process ended at some point when a piece is reached that could not be further divided. Do you know that they call these particles atomus? You heard it right. It is atomus, a Greek word that means invisible particle. An atom is the smallest particle of an element that has all the properties of the element. Now, let's discuss the three states of matter. Do you know the three states of matter? Good job! These three states of matter are solid, liquid, and gas. Gases, liquids, and solids are all made up of microscopic particles, but the behaviors of these particles differ in the three phases. How? Let's take solids. Solids are tightly packed, usually in a regular pattern. They vibrate or jiggle, but generally do not move from place to place. On the other hand, liquid is close together with no regular arrangement. Liquid vibrates, moves about, and slides past each other. And gas is well separated with no regular arrangement. Gas vibrates and moves freely at high speeds. The three states of matter differ because of the arrangement and motion of the particles in each state. That's it! You learned that matter is anything that has mass and volume. For sure, you now have a better picture or view of how the particles are arranged in the three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Matter is made up of tiny particles. Particles of matter are moving all the time. These particles have spaces between them and attract each other. These ideas are some of the features of what scientists call the particle model of matter. Are you still listening? That's good. Do you want to know what changes take place when water is left in an open container? In a closed container? Then, let's move on. The volume of water from an open container decreased after leaving it overnight. How is the water decreased after leaving it overnight? Based on the particle model of matter, particles are always in motion. These molecules have kinetic energies that differ from each other. Some particles are moving faster than others and therefore have higher kinetic energy, and some are moving slower. So, even at room temperature, some molecules of water have enough kinetic energy to overcome the attraction of neighboring molecules and escape from the surface of the liquid and eventually move into the air. To break away from the surface of the liquid, the molecules must have at least some minimum kinetic energy. The process by which the molecules on the surface of a liquid break away and change into gas is called evaporation. As evaporation takes place, the water molecules which did not escape and were left in the liquid have lower average kinetic energy than the molecules that escape. The effect of this is the decrease in the temperature of the liquid water. Evaporation is a cooling process. Isn't it amazing? In a closed container, no particles can escape into the air outside the cover of the container. Evaporation still happens in a covered container. Some of the molecules of water on the surface of the liquid escape and go into the gaseous state. These molecules may then collide with the inner surface of the cover, and as more and more of these molecules do so, some may stay on the cover, accumulate, and form droplets. This process where gas is changed into a liquid is called condensation. It is the reverse of evaporation. In a closed container, the molecules of water continue to evaporate and condense, but there is no net change in the number of molecules in the liquid or in the gas phase. Molecules of water that previously evaporated are condensing, but other water molecules are evaporating. Let's now discuss what happens when the water is heated or cooled. So, be prepared, for we have to know more about this lesson. Are you ready? Do you know what will happen if the water is heated? Very good! As the water is heated and the temperature of the water rises, the molecules gain more kinetic energy and move faster. More molecules, therefore, have the energy to overcome the forces of attraction of the adjacent molecules. These molecules escape to the gaseous phase, and this is evaporation. This evaporation and formation of gas can happen even below the surface of the liquid. When this happens, bubbles are formed, rise to the surface, and escape into the air. This is the bubbling phenomenon that you see when water boils. Wow! When the water began to cool, droplets formed under the watch glass that covered the beaker containing hot water. Where did these droplets come from? You're right! The molecules that escape from the liquid and go into the gaseous phase is called vapor, and in this case, water vapor. The water vapor rises and some molecules touch the glass. The glass is cooler than the boiling water, so some of the heat energy of the vapor molecules is transferred to the glass. Do you know what happens when the gas is cooled? Amazing! The particles slow down, or the particles lose enough energy. Their attraction for each other can overcome their motion and cause them to associate with one another to become a liquid, and this process is called condensation. Can you recall the two aspects of the particle model of matter? Correct! It seems that you're listening well. The particles are moving all the time and some forces act between the particles. Are you still okay? Let me continue our discussion. What do you think will happen when ice turns into liquid water? Are you ready? The ice cube, which was taken from the freezer, is at a lower temperature than the surrounding room temperature. Some of the heat energy of the surroundings are transferred to the water molecules in the ice. This increases the kinetic energy of the molecules, and as the heat transfer continues, the particles gain more and more kinetic energy. The molecules vibrate at a faster rate and at some point have enough energy to overcome the forces that hold them in their fixed places in the solid. As a result, they break away from their fixed positions. The transformation process in which solid is changed to a liquid is called melting. Are you wondering why when you put the liquid water inside the freezer became a piece of ice? The cooling system of the refrigerator removes heat energy from the molecules, as a result of which they have less kinetic energy and move more slowly. As more and more heat is removed and as the molecules move more slowly, the forces of attraction between the molecules become stronger, which causes molecules to be aligned. The molecules lose so much energy that they are not able to move from place to place, but only able to vibrate in place. Freezing is a process in which a liquid is changed to a solid. Are you still there? That's good. I know you learned a lot today. Let me test if you really listen carefully to our discussion. Are you ready? What are the 4 basic aspects of the particle model of the matter? Correct! These are: first, matter is made up of very small particles. Second, matter is made up of particles that are constantly moving. Third, there is empty space between the particles. And lastly, there are forces that act between the particles. Can you still remember the 5 phases of matter? Great! The phases of the matter are evaporation, boiling, condensation, melting, and freezing. Did you get all the correct answers? Remember, my dear grade 8 learners, that the phases of matter are 5. These are evaporation, boiling, condensation, melting, and freezing. There are also 3 states of matter: solid, liquid, and gas. Are you now ready with your quiz? Nice! It shows that you are now ready. So, get your quiz notebook and ballpen. I can really feel the excitement, my dear grade 8 students. So, get your quiz notebook and be ready. Are you ready? That's the energy. For this quiz, you have to identify the sentences. Write the letter that corresponds to its phases of matter. Let's start. For item number 1, it is the process in which a liquid is changed to a solid. A. Evaporation. Letter B. Condensation. C. Melting. And letter D. Freezing. For item number 2, the process by which the molecules on the surface of a liquid break away and change into gas. Letter A. Evaporation. B. Condensation. C. Melting. D. Freezing. Item number 3. This is a process where gas is changed into a liquid. A. Freezing. B. Boiling. C. Condensation. D. Melting. For item number 4, the transformation process in which a solid is changed to a liquid. A. Boiling. B. Melting. C. Freezing. D. Evaporation. For the last number, the process by which a liquid turns into a vapor when it is heated to its boiling point. A. Boiling. B. Freezing. C. Evaporation, D. Condensation. I know you are all excited, so let us now check your answers. Are you ready? Listen carefully. For number 1, the answer is correct. It's letter D, freezing. Number 2, great, you have another point again. It's letter A, evaporation. Let's proceed to number 3. The answer is, you got it right again. The correct answer is letter C, condensation. Let's have number 4. What is your answer? Very good. The answer is letter B, melting. And for the last item, you're right. It's letter A, boiling. Count and write your score on the upper right corner of your quiz notebook. How many correct answers did you get? I am glad that you made it. Congratulations for a job well done. You really listened for today's lesson. Those who got low scores, you can make it by browsing, by reading your notes, and answering the activities on your last or modules. Another day has ended and I'm sure you learned a lot. Thank you for joining me today. Always remember to practice personal hygiene protocols at all times. This episode becomes through our scriptwriter Miss Lee I.V. Patines and the SDO Isabela RBI production team. This is your science buddy teacher Rachel, leaving you a quote by George Gaylord Simpson. As far as we know in the universe, man is unique. He happens to represent the highest form of organization of matter and energy that has ever appeared. Keep safe, everyone. God bless and goodbye, my dear grade 8 students.
Patuloy ang edukasyon para sa ating henerasyon.
Sa daan ng pagkatuto ay walang may iwan.
Kaya halina sa Radyo Eskwela!